I just watched the movie Honey Don't in cinemas. It is the new 2025 dark comedy mystery directed by Ethan Coen. The plot summary of the movie reads: Small town private investigator Honey O'Donoghue delves into a series of strange deaths tied to a mysterious church. If you do not know who I am, my name is VDK. I make movie bingo cards which are available on my Substack, vdkfilmclub.substack.com, and I talk about movies. So I went into this movie not knowing a lot. I knew that Margaret Qualley was in this movie, Aubrey Plaza, and Chris Evans. I knew that those names were in this movie, and that was a big draw for why I went. I had also seen the trailer and I saw a lot of action in the trailer. I saw guns being pulled, a shady looking, spiritual leader, a bloodied person on the floor, a car crash. So it looked like there were elements of a thriller or something has gone wrong in this place and there's deaths happening and it seems very mysterious. So I went into it just with only that information. And I would say, without giving any spoilers, because this video is going to be split into the non spoiler portion, which we are doing now, and then later I will talk with spoilers. But talking without spoilers, this movie is more a dark comedy than I would say really a mystery. There is a mystery element to it, but it's much more a dark comedy. So go into it knowing that you're not about to watch like a Benoit Blanc kind of story or, a detective really is like detecting and then the results of the detective work is then leads to the answer. It's not that kind of film really. It's more Honey O'Donoghue is a private investigator and we are seeing her asking questions and kind of doing something. But again, just don't go into it expecting that this is a mystery, like I am here to really solve the mystery. It's not that kind of movie. As far as acting and the characterization, I think I will just talk about each of them individually. Margaret Qualley plays Honey O'Donoghue. She's the lead actress. And I wouldn't say that this is my favorite Margaret Qualley performance. She does well. She does a really good job, but I wouldn't say that it blew me. I've seen Margaret in a couple of things, and I wouldn't say that this is my favorite Margaret Qualley performance. She does bring the character to life, I guess, but then the character of Honey herself is so. I'm so sorry to say, but she's kind of generic to me. Like, we've kind of seen this character before, we kind of know who this person is, but there's nothing really specifically unique. Like, everything about this character, I feel like I've seen this character before. And even the way Margaret plays it, it's not really that specific or fresh or something that I would be like, Honey O'Donoghue now is the person that immediately comes to my mind as a very singular thing. It's none of that. It's like this character we've kind of seen in different ways before. Chris Evans plays Reverend Drew, the spiritual leader. And Chris, it's a different role for Chris. He's really playing, a spiritual leader. So you're really seeing him like preaching. And if you've seen the trailer, you see he's in the white garment and he's supposed to be like a preacher and all of that. It was fun to see him in this role. Again, I mean, it's okay. I think generally my thoughts on this movie, I think you're beginning to see it already in this non-spoilers, is the movie is really well shot. There's so many good scenes in this movie. I don't want to go ahead of myself, but just to talk about it generally for a second. There is many good this movie seems like it has so many good ideas and so many ways that it could go and it could have been a lot better. But the final product that we get is not just very satisfying. Like this movie could have been a lot more satisfying, and it had all the ingredients to be a lot more satisfying. It's not a boring film. I would say I watched it, and it's also not a long film. It's an hour 20 something minutes. It's very short and sweet, but it could have been a lot better. Everything I think in some ways could have been turned up a notch. Although there are so many parts of it too that are so good, which we'll talk about in the spoilers. But there are some parts of it that are so good, and it almost feels like individual sections, individual subplots of this movie are really, really strong and really, really work. But as a whole, and where the main story, the A story, finally concludes with Honey's character, I don't. It's not very satisfying. So that is just kind of the summary of how I feel about this movie in a general sense. But back to the acting. Aubrey Plaza plays MG, and it's Aubrey. Like I don't know. she again, I won't say any of them. The only person that I would say maybe does something a little bit different is Chris Evans, just because of the kind of character it is. But the character that Aubrey plays, I mean, I've kind of seen Aubrey play this similar because I've watched so many Aubrey Plaza movies as well. I've seen her play this kind of character, and this kind of character as a character too is nothing new or fresh. So they all did well, but not in a way that I'm like, oh, Academy Award winning. It's fine. Like they service the script, I guess. The next thing I want to talk about is the directing. And I want to talk about the opening credit. I don't know if that's the director's choice or the editor's choice, but the opening credit, like the way they show the names, like the opening credit, is so well done. Like it's so innovative. I had the thought when I was watching, I was like, oh, I don't think I've seen opening credits done like this before. It was a very interesting way of doing opening credits. I would give them props for that. That was a very unique and cool way of doing the opening credits. Also, just if you're wondering, the colors are like the trailer, if you've seen it, it's kind of very bright. The colors are really popping. The cinematography is really good. Very well done movie, technically. Fantastically done technically. The shot choices, great. The colors, the cinematography, the lighting, the costumes, perfect. The locations, the props, technically sweet film. Really, really good. Really, really good in that department. I wish I feel like I would have loved this movie more. I just if it's the kind of movie that you come out and you say this movie has everything that it takes for me to love this movie more. Why? How come I'm not loving it? How come I didn't come out of this theater like gagging over this? Like, and I think it's because of the ending. I think it's because of the final act. Like the way it all comes together at the end, it almost feels, without giving spoilers, it almost feels kind of rushed. Like, and just I don't want to say any more than that until I go into talking about spoilers. But I think it's the ending. The final act of this movie could have been better done. That's what I would say about this film. Would I recommend it? I think every movie is worth seeing. So I think definitely check it out just to make your own thoughts about it. I think every movie is worth seeing, but if it's up to me and you're really asking me, I would say every movie is worth seeing. That's all I can say. I can't say anything other than that because I'm not going to take money out of these people's pockets. Like you should see it and make your own thoughts about it. Now, that's all for the non-spoilers, and we are going to jump right into spoilers. I will be using bingo card moments that I ticked off to direct the conversation in this next half. So the first bingo slot I want to talk about was car has been flipped over, and I want to talk about the opening of the movie and what I thought it was going to be. So when this movie begins, it starts out with the woman who we find out to be Cher, and she's looking like she's looking at something, and then she comes down, and then there's been a car crash, and then she takes this finger, we see the unique ring that it is with the cross on it, and then she like pockets it, goes to have a naked swim, and then gets on a two-wheeler and like enters into the and just rides into the sunset, if you will. And at this point, I'm like, okay, so this movie is maybe like that already paints a picture in your mind. You're like, okay, this ring definitely means something. It's like some kind of cult thing. Is it some kind of um what is going on with this ring? Like, who is this woman? Who is this mysterious woman? Like, what is going on? It's giving very somebody. Maybe who is this woman that's also in the car? What did she see? How come she's been run over? So all these questions start to come up. And now that we're already talking spoilers, by the end of the movie now, it's like okay, like I mean, I know who Cher is. As if I'm just talking about the character of Cher, I know who Cher is. She comes in and she's more so about the Dr. Drew side of Reverend Drew, not Dr. Drew. And she's more about the Reverend Drew side of things, and she's working for the drug people and trying to keep the drug thing going fine for Drew and those people. But at the end, I'm so sorry to say, do you care? I think that's the sad part of this movie. Even talking about it now, I'm like, I think that is the thing is that these characters, I didn't care about most of them. Like, I don't think they gave us a lot to care about with these people. Like, I was watching these things happen, and there are moments in the story that are like, the story is compelling. The story is interesting to watch, and your what you are seeing is interesting, and the storyline is good. But I think on a human level, on a personal level, on like my own emotions, I didn't really care. Like there was such a, I'm watching a film, and the film is entertaining. It's cool, but I'm not having any emotional anything with these characters. So, and Cher is a very good example of that because again, she starts off this movie, she's the first person we see, and by the end, she's just like a bad girl. And I guess it's supposed to be like Honey is attracted to bad girls at the end of the movie. Okay, I guess like I feel like that character too could have been more. I'm sorry if I seem a bit like over it or tired, but I think it's the movie didn't. I wish this movie gave me more. I just wish. I'm so disappointed by the movie that it ended up being, and I say that knowing that also I didn't hate this movie. I wasn't bored in the cinema. It's a very weird middle. It's a very weird middle. I don't. If you have watched this movie, please give me your thoughts. Do you feel like what I'm saying? Do you feel the same way? Like, what did you think about this movie? But let me keep talking. So the next bingo slot I want to talk about is Hills Clack as Someone Walks, and obviously I want to talk about Honey and the character of Honey. Hmm. Well, I guess she's a lesbian woman who is a private investigator, and she does her job. And do know what I mean? It's like her character on paper is what the character is on the film. It's she's a lesbian woman who's a private investigator who one of her clients, ends up dead, and she's trying to figure out maybe what happened, especially because another man then comes in. His husband is now ends up dead, and it's kind of tied back to this same church. And then her niece goes missing, so it's like okay. But again, all these things are like I'm just telling you the plot of the film. But Honey herself, do I have any emotional? I don't know what is there to say about Honey. She looked good. She had comedic lines. She's a feminist, which I love, and she's a badass. The scene with her going to rough up her niece's abuser was really cool. That was a fun scene, very cool scene. She's a cool chick, badass woman. But I don't have. That's what I'm telling you. Like all these things are positive. What that I am saying, but on an emotional level, I don't really feel anything for Honey. Like there's nothing more for me to say. Like she's a feminist badass. Okay, like that is all I have to say about her. I think that encapsulates that character in a very. That's it. She's a feminist badass. Then her investigation, the biggest, and again, what really drives this movie to the ground for me is, and this is kind of flash forwarding to the ending, but you notice that all the investigating she kind of does in this movie, at the end of the thing, it doesn't really amount to anything because the killer who, spoiler alert, major spoiler if you're still watching, the person who has been responsible for all of this has been MG. And the way that even comes across, it's very unintentional. Like, it's not like it is Honey's investigation that then reveals that MG was the one behind all of this. MG basically outs herself as the mess. The only investigative work I would say she did was she looked at the cup and saw the green lipstick and then put two and two together. But how did she get into MG's place? It's not like she came into MG's place really knowing that MG was the culprit. It's not like her investigative journalism or investigative skills had gotten her to that point. So again, we watch this whole movie of a private investigator investigating, but then at the end, it's not even her investigative skills that reveal the killer. It's the killer that just reveals herself as the killer. Okay. Gosh. And speaking about the killer, I guess let's talk about MJ Falcone and their relationship. You know, I love a lesbian romance. I love lesbian stories. I love LGBTQ stories in media. I champion the LGBTQ community and I say more of it. Yeah, it was good to see, that representation on screen. What else is there to say? The relationship was, it was nice. I guess they are both like, we don't really like women that are too in their feelings, and you're not really in your feelings, and I'm not really in my feelings, and we have a good thing going on. So we don't really do the emotional parts of it, but we are both good at sex with each other. So that's their relationship. There's also, of course, the scene in the bar, which I was like, oh, not this girl is getting fingered in a bar. That is so. Because when Margaret Qualley was like, and doing all of that, I was like, is she getting fingered? Oh, that is so. And then when MG now like licks her finger, I'm like, oh, I guess she was getting fingered. How random. But they said lesbians, and here we are. We need to show you their sex life, the sex lives of lesbians. The next bingo slot I want to talk about is character last while holding cup, and that's the character of Marty, played by Charlie Day. I guess he's meant to be like the comic relief of the movie because he just keeps asking. He just doesn't believe that she's a lesbian. He just keeps asking her out, and every time she says "I like girls," he's like ha ha ha, and it's like oh, so that's like their whole dynamic for the lot of the movies. He's trying to ask Honey out. Honey is like I like girls. He doesn't really believe it. Asks again. What do I have to say about that? Well, there was Charlie Day. He was comic relief, so comedy. This film, I'm so sorry. Like I feel like as I'm even talking, I feel so lackluster. But it's how I feel. Like I think I can't fake my emotions. I really can't. Like I can't sit down here and tell you that this movie really moved me in a very. I have so many exciting because you've seen my other videos. When I'm excited, I'm excited. This one, the movie, it's. I think my energy is showing how I felt about this movie. Like the next bingo slot I want to talk about is spiritual leader gives sermon, and I want to talk about the character of Reverend Drew and Chris Evans's acting. Chris did a good job. He was also really funny in this role. He had comedic moments. As far as the plot goes and his character, I guess at the end he's not really the one responsible for the attack on the women. I guess he's just more so a drug dealer slash minister, which I really thought that the story that honestly might have been more interesting to me of maybe he's actually preying on these women. Maybe that's also kind of been done. But then the one that we do get and the way the revelation happens with MG also doesn't really, I don't know, because when ultimately he's not really the one responsible for the death of Mia or kidnapping Corinne, I believe that's her name, that's Honey's niece, when he's not the one responsible for that and he's really just like sleeping with his congregation and being a drug dealer, I'm like, okay. And then when, his eventual death, I thought too was so random. Like when Cher just like points the gun at him, he kind of like smiles slash smirks. And then we hear a gunshot. And I guess that's just the end of his character. Like that's him done. I was like, okay, what other thoughts do I have about Reverend Drew? He's a sleazeball. He was funny at moments. I don't have any other thing to say about him. It's so, but do you understand? If you've watched this movie, do you feel how I feel? Where I can talk about this movie on a plot level, I can talk about it on a this is what happened. It wasn't boring. It was entertaining. The movie is well done. Which all these things are positive things, but there is just no emotional hook in this movie. I think the movie that is what I'm realizing, and that's what I'm articulating. As I'm articulating my thoughts right now, I'm realizing that's my problem with the movie. Is that it works technically and just in terms of when you're watching it, you will not be bored. But will you, when you come out of this cinema, will this movie stick with you? No. Will you remember this movie probably tomorrow or next tomorrow? No. Will you remember this movie a year from now? Probably not. I'll probably tell you the movie Honey Don't, and you will go, oh yeah, that movie. What happened again? Was it Chris Evans? That is how I feel like this movie will be next year. I genuinely feel so because there's no emotional hook as far as I'm concerned in this movie. Finally, the last bingo slot I want to talk about is the tea kettle whistles, and this is the final showdown and my thoughts about that. What is there to say? What is there to say? What is there to say? Honey came into MG's house, not really for the purpose of I know that MG is the one now. She came in to locate MG for something else, and then she sees the yearbook, and then MG kind of walks in, and something has shifted, and MG is just acting like she's now showing her true colors. It's almost like the writer just said, "Okay, I think let's start wrapping this movie up. MG, reveal yourself as the killer," and MG said, "Okay, let me do that," and then Honey sees the lipstick. Do we get to know how Corinne actually gets in MG's clutches? Did when she ran after seeing Honey's father, did she just run straight to MG's house, or did MG grab her or take her? Like, how did that go? And if she ran straight to MG's, why? Why didn't she just go to her? Why? I guess I can say maybe she didn't go to Honey because she felt like Honey would have called her mother. But I guess, but is that why? I mean, because you only saw MG one time and you just really thought she was the safe space. If I'm to go with the fact, if I'm to go with the theory that Corinne goes by herself to MG's place. So if that's not the case, then did MG take her? I feel like also I would have liked to know more about that MG. Like that resolution wasn't. I just hate in movies when you can just tell that the writer says, okay, bad guy, reveal yourself now, and then the bad guy reveals themselves because it's like okay, I didn't need then the whole thing I just watched of the investigation and trying to follow, trying to piece it together as to what happened, what are the clues, who could it be, who could it be. It kind of all comes to naught when it just feels like the writer will just tell the bad guy to reveal themselves when the writer is ready to tell the bad guy to reveal themselves, and that is what happens in this movie. And then we know, okay, MG is the one. They have the little fight at the ending. The bird is released, starts flying, 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 hits the window, crashes to the ground. We later find out Honey survives, Corinne has been found. MG was the one responsible for the death of Mia, and she staged it to look like an accident. She also killed her father, and then we just get this whole like exposition wrap up, and then the movie ends. When I tell you, honestly, end of thoughts. This movie, I think I've already said all I have to say about it. It was so ultimately the thing is, and this is what I think I've what I'm trying to say. I want to say it was so ultimately disappointing, but I can't say I was disappointed because I didn't hate this film. I wasn't bored by this film. I can't even say it's a bad movie because it's not a bad film. It just didn't hook me emotionally, and the ending could have been a lot better. This movie could have been a lot better. I think that is the final thoughts about it. This could have been a lot better. It could have ended better. There could have been just more in terms of the emotional hook and tying it all together better at the ending. I think I've said all I have to say about this movie. Please, 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 if you've watched this movie, I would like to know your thoughts about it. Do you share my same feelings? Did you like it? Is there something I'm completely missing that if I just realize this, everything will just snap and I'll be like, masterpiece? Are you watching this video going like, this boy is talking absolute crap? Or are you like, I completely agree? I would really like to know your thoughts. So please leave them in the comments below. Also, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And also, if you want the bingo card that I used for this movie or any of the other bingo cards that I have done or the future bingo cards that I will do, you can find them all on my Substack, vdkfilmclub.substack.com. Thank you so much for sharing this time with me. And until the next movie, have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye.